This is the stupidest possible argument against lowering the age of consent. I came across it again in recent conversation. Let's call it the sex requires love argument. It goes like this. If someone engages in sexual conduct with a teenage girl, then, if he didn't really love her, he was taking advantage of her. I'd leave the sample argument gender neutral, but I've yet to have an opponent make the same set of assumptions against teenage boys. There is only one scenario in the mind of the opponent, that the teenager is starry-eyed and love-struck, while the man is sex-crazed and intent on a hit and run. Those are some big-ass assumptions to make. To anyone making this argument, I should first welcome them to planet Earth. Who knows what other strange Earth practices might catch them off guard? Perhaps on their planet there exists only monogamous pair bonding. In human relationships, however, the lifelong monogamy scenario is not the norm. I refer you to the works of Robert Sapolsky if you want a good introduction to where humans lie on the pair bonding to tournament species spectrum, but for now, normal life experience is all we'll need for a counter-argument. Take the average human. Out of all the sexual partners it has, how many of those partners are long-term? Yeah, not that many. I'll not go into my own stats, but it's a definite minority. How ultra-conservative do you have to be before you start trying to argue that two people have to be in a long-term commitment before they have sex? The way our culture seems to work is that sex usually comes first, usually sometime in the first 3 dates. This observation is for heterosexual duos. Sex usually comes even sooner for homosexual men. In either case, it comes before the relationship becomes a relationship. Are all humans taking advantage of each other for sex? I want to try to make a partial list of the most ridiculous assumptions the sex requires love argument makes. Taking advantage of means taking without giving, or somehow using a false pretense to benefit from a deal without contributing to it. So, assumption number 1. Sex is something that a female gives to a male. It costs her, but benefits him. Nope. There is actually a partial truth here. This is how evolution has wired our psychology, but it certainly isn't the case today. Assumption number 2. The girl in question desires love more than sex. She is trading the latter for the former. It turns out, when not under social pressure to avoid being labeled a slut, females tend to desire sex. It might also surprise you to learn that teenagers also have more than a passing interest in the subject. Assumption number 3. The man in question desires sex more than love. As a man who has a much harder time satisfying his emotional needs than his sexual needs, fuck you. Assumption number 4. The above assumptions are true for heterosexual partnerships in general, the difference being that a teenage girl is unable to see that she is being taken advantage of. If you mean not having yet been indoctrinated into feminism, then I partially agree. Assumption number 5. Alternatively, if the girl is aware of what is happening, then she doesn't understand her own desires. She is not capable of deciding for herself what she wants. And so on and so forth. Going on would drift into the more general assumptions against lowering the age of consent, while this video is limited to this one especially stupid argument. Anyone making the sex requires love argument against lowering the age of consent has of course already made all of those assumptions as well. The biggest of which is that jailing someone is an appropriate response to a non-malevolent act.